So now we try to see advanced concept. We won't discuss in full length, at least some of the applications where it is used, data mining association analysis techniques, we try to understand. So do we have association rules where we have continuous and categorical attributes? So suppose we want to find rules like this: gender equal to male, age belongs to 21 to 30. Then will that imply they spend more than 10 hours online? So the data set is given here. You can see that the first, there are different attributes like gender, age, annual income. So it is not simply, we are looking in item set, something like it's a female and 26. All these are not just items. So these are also not just transactional items. These are some data set where we have columns. In those columns, some of them are continuous attributes, some of them are categorical attributes. So in this, which one is the continuous attributes in this data set?
Age,
income, number of hours are continuous, gender,
number
privacy
of mail
concern.
accounts.
So there is no meaning
Correct.
of defining rules, something like if the female and age is 26, then they are more prone to spend 20 hours. Then so many rules will happen. So can we put them into brackets now? So we have seen binning, right? So age 21, 30, if they belongs to, and if they are male, then there is more chance that they spend more than 10 hours online. So these rules will be useful. Then just looking at them, combination of female and 26, then what it implies, then you'll get more rules because it is a continuous. Even the data which you acquire later also may not match to any one of these things exactly. That may fall into between two values, but you may not get exactly the same thing. So how to handle those things, so is what we are going to discuss. Example, internet usage data again, based on education. Then education, there are many values are available like graduate, college, all those things. So graduate is one item, but that item has many values it can take. Then how do you form the rules? So level of education equal to graduate, then online banking, yes, then privacy concerns, yes. So they are more concerned about the privacy or not. Then what is confidence, what is support for this, all those things we need to find out. But rules will not be simply as just like we found earlier, item sets. Here, item sets, items have different values to be taken. Then how do we progress with these data sets? So one way of handling categorical attributes is introduce a new item for each distinct attribute value pair. So this is also called in machine learning one-hot encoding. So education, earlier it was only in one column, education, like graduate, college, graduate. Then what we do is we will split this column into n columns. N is the number of different values this education can take. So instead of write level of education, we will write graduate is one column. If they are graduate, yes. If they are not graduate, no. Similarly, college, college graduate, or all those things, high school. So here, education equal to graduate, education equal to college, education equal to high school. Education equal to graduate one means they are graduate. Remaining things should be zero. Remember that it's only one. That's why it is called one-hot encoding. Only one column will have one. Remaining values will be zeros. So like that, we can split that column into several columns. For each one category, then we'll get a new column. Then we can see that whenever they are male, because there are only yes or no now. So 0, 1, 1, what it implies. If education is 1, then what it implies? Privacy, whether they are concerned about privacy or not. So handling categorical attributes, some attributes can have many possible values. So here it is simple, this categorical attribute, only 3 values we have. That's why we got 3 columns. If it has something like 100 values, then what will happen? Many of their attribute values have very low support. So potential solution, aggregate the low support attribute values. So if you take US cities, all these cities, if you take individual city transaction or individual city data items, there will be very less support, means number of those items or those data objects will be very less. So then if we can make state-wise aggregation, we have studied in the processing data in the first lectures of data mining, what is aggregation? Aggregation will give you more insights than the taking individual items. So these things, instead of looking at city-wise, we can also look at state-wise or region-wise, South America, North America, West America, like that. Distribution of attribute values can be highly skewed. Example, 85% of survey participants own a computer at home. Means only 15% are not having computer at home. It is highly skewed, means one attribute has more values, other more frequent, other attribute value is less frequent. Most records have computer at home equal to yes. So computation becomes expensive. Many frequent item sets involving the binary item computer at home equal to yes, because it is more frequent, more values, more association rules will be formed by this. So what the potential solution to address that is the discard the highly frequent items. Anyway, it's if they are frequent, then they don't make any good rules, because that will go into the denominator. Whatever you have, it's more frequent if you have that to the left side. And that frequent item to another item which is not less frequent. So frequency of combined items divided by the frequency of the left side item. So here left side item is highly frequent, means the denominator will become very high. The total association value, whatever probability we are getting, that will become less. That won't be interesting. So that's why you can remove all frequent item values to form the association rules. Use alternative measures such as edge confidence. Yesterday we discussed about this. What is edge confidence? So computational complexity, what we get at to address these categorical and continuous attributes, how complex the algorithm will be. Binarizing the data increases the number of items. So we have seen that one column is split into 3 columns, then items have become more. Earlier only one column, one item type. Now, if you split that column into 3, then we increased the number of items. But the width of the transactions remain the same as the number of original attributes. So as I told you, width of the transaction is same because only one value will be non-zeros in this. We split education into 3 columns, education equal to graduate, education equal to college, education equal to high school. But what happened, we split so that only one column will have 1, remaining columns 0. So the item is present or not, only one item will be present always for the education. So the width of the transaction will not change, even though you are making one hot encoding or splitting the columns. Produce more frequent item sets, but maximum size of frequent item set is limited to the number of original attributes. As I told you, only one item will be present even after splitting. So that's why the maximum size of the frequent item sets won't change. So now the question of how to handling continuous attributes. Different methods: discretization based, statistics based, non-discretization based. So one is you can group values between this and that value, something like that. Age belongs to 21, 30, including 21, not including 30, but anything less than 30. Number of hours online, 10 to 20. So you are putting them into buckets now. So that will become one category of age between 21, 30. Or you can say, if you don't want to say that, you can also name them as young adults, middle adults or elderly people, children like that, you can make these naming also. But it is good for us to know that exactly which bucket will have what values. So now age can be bucketed like this, 21 into 30, 10 to 20 like that. Chart online, yes. This anyway, we got values with yes and no, so we don't need to do anything. So now we are trying to form the rules like this. If age is between 21, 30 and number of hours online spending is between 10 and 20, then they are more prone to chart online. So that is what this rule says. Then for this, what is the support and what is the probability? So number of hours online, mu equal to 14 means the mean they got, number of hours online spending is 14, the standard deviation they got 4 when they computed the mean and standard deviation for those columns. So you can see here now it is transformed like this. Male, female, age is splitted into many columns now. The columns will hold values between. So between 0 and 13, age less than 13, age between 13, 21, age 21, like that. It's you can make different columns. One column you are splitting into this. Then it becomes a categorical columns like earlier. So you can apply the same rules. So discretization based methods, we discussed this. I don't want to discuss much about this. In the beginning itself, we discussed equal width binning, equal depth binning, frequency wise, and cluster based. You can also make clusters and use them. So what are the issues with the discretization? Then interval is too wide, bin size equal to 30, may merge several disparate patterns. You may not get very good patterns because they may vary their behavior. If you put all 0 to 30, then it's the young kids, they don't do anything with online or computer, all those things. If you put them into 0 to 31 bucket, then you will face those problems. If big bin size is large, then the problem is it's your mixing up the people with the different characteristics. So that's why your bin size should be so that it should represent the population with the same characteristics. Male, if you again take the less width, then it's more columns will be generated, more complex. May lose some of the interesting patterns. Pattern C may not have enough confidence. Interval too narrow, this is the problem. Pattern A is broken up into two smaller patterns, can recover the pattern by merging adjacent subpatterns. So pattern B is broken up into smaller patterns. So bin size equal to 2 means only you made the entire thing into 2 parts. Not 2 parts, width is 2. So if 100 is there, 50 you made. Then again, you can merge after looking at their characteristics, let's say. If 2 association rules are means, let's say, 48 and 50 implies the online hours, and 46 to 48 implies online hours same, then you can merge them 46 to 50 directly. That is what it said. Can recover the pattern by merging adjacent subpatterns. Then pattern B is broken up into smaller patterns. So first we'll start with only small number of bins, means size is less, but you will get more bins. Then you start combining those bins based on their characteristics. Cannot recover the pattern by merging adjacent subpatterns. That is one problem with this. So whenever you merge adjacent subpatterns, you lost the real pattern what in the previous buckets. You cannot get that once you merge. Some windows may not meet support threshold. Okay, anyway, it's even if you make a small size bins, some bins may not have enough support, then you may not form any rules. So if you want to form rules using that, then you need to merge with the other bins. So discretization, some complexity analysis is given here. You can go through that, some statistical based methods. So another one is if we get the document term matrix. Document term matrix is nothing but what they do. They take each document and they get distinct words in all the documents. Each document they represent with a vector. How many times the word present in that document. So here 5 documents are there. First, they take all distinct words in 5 documents. Then each document they represent as a vector of each word frequency. So word 1, word 2, word 3, if there are 5 distinct words putting together all documents, then in D1, W1 means word 1 is appearing 2 times, word 2 is appearing 2 times, word 3 0 times, word 4 0 times, word 5 1 time. Like that, they represent documents. That is called document term matrix. Term is nothing but word here. So here, W1 and W2 tends to appear together in the same document. So we see here 2, 2. So most of the times, whenever W1 is there, W2 is also non-zero value. So the item set W1, W2 is more frequent. That is what we can find here. So data contains only continuous attributes of the same type. Frequency of words in a document. So here all the columns are having same type of values because they are integers here. So data contains only continuous attributes of the same type. All are integers only here. So convert into 0, 1 matrix, then apply existing algorithms. Lose word frequency information. So if you want to see that whether the words come together in a document or not, you don't need frequencies, you need at least once the document comes on. That is nothing but zeros and ones you can replace this. But you can lose the information of storing how frequent that word in that document. Discretization does not apply as users want association among words, not ranges of words here. So here we don't make discretize like it's the frequency between 0 and 2, frequency between 2 and 4 like that, because that is not the essence here. Here, most of the times we'll see how words come together. How to determine the support of a word. So how many times the word will come? If we simply sum up its frequency, support count will be greater than total number of documents. So normalize the word vectors, example using L1 norms. So the normalizing packages are there, different types of normalizations are there, standard scalar, normalizing with L1 norm, normalizing with L2 norm. L1 norm is nothing but when you add up in that, the whole thing should be equal to 1. So if you take after normalization, what is happening here, you add up this first row and tell me, is it 1 or not? What is 17 and 33? Not columns, not rows here, columns have become 1. 40, 40, 80, and 20 is 100. Similarly, 33, 17, 50, 50, 100, right? Each column is 1 when you sum up. So after normalizing, what they are readjusting so that values of each column, when you add up, that becomes 1. So that is one way of normalization. You can do normalization before applying these, before counting the support. So min a priori, new definition of support is support of C equal to sigma I belongs to T term, that is for each term, minimum of J belongs to C, Dij. So minimum of this J belongs to C. So for which you are computing this support, for that you need to compute this. Example, support of W1, W2, W3 is, so W1, W2, W3. In this, what is the minimum putting these 3 columns together? That is 0. Then second one is also 0. Third one is also 0 with the red highlighted, you'd see. Putting together, you need to take the minimum support of one of those words when they considered together, W1, W2, W3. So only in one, you don't find a non-zero, you find non-zero value, which is minimum, that is 0.17. So this support is nothing but 0.17. So J belongs to C is nothing but either 1, 2, 3. J belongs either 1 or 2 or 3. So anti-monotone property, if you increase more words, then support naturally will become less. Then support of W1, then this is 0.4 because that is the minimum in that row for W1. Only one column is there. That's why all the values simply added here. Then if you take support, hello. Okay, I lost connection. I got it back. So this you can go through that. It's a when you take W1, W2, in both of W1, W2, the minimum values you will take. So the minimum for the first one is 0.33, then 0.00, then 0.40. So you are getting 0. So if you add more words, then the support will become less. That is what the anti-monotone property. There is another concept, that is concept hierarchies. So you can consider the whole food implies something, but food can be divided into bread and milk. Then again, bread is wheat, white, then milk can be skimmed and non-skimmed, or with 2% skimmed, then foremost schemes like that. So then how do you form rules with hierarchies? So food implies what? Even within food, then bread implies what? Like that. Here, some hierarchies are given. Electronics again divided into different things here. So another concept is multi-level association rules. Why should we incorporate concept hierarchy now? Rules at lower levels may not have enough support to appear in any frequent item sets. So if you take only rules forming with the wheat bread, you may not have enough support, but if you combine wheat bread and white bread, then you may have enough support. That will be called bread, right? So you can have multi-level association rules. Rules at lower levels may not have enough support to appear in any frequent item sets. Rules at lower levels of the hierarchy are overly specific. Means more specific they are than skim milk implies white bread, 2% milk implies wheat bread. So that is advantage if you go into the deeper level, but they may not have enough support. So if they don't have enough support, then you may need to merge or go to the higher hierarchy. Are indicative of association between milk and bread. So both can be measured. Simply milk implies bread. There may be specific at lower level. Skim milk is always wheat bread, white bread. But when you take milk, then that directly implies bread. So more, that is what here, indicative of association between milk and bread. So you can go through from lower level hierarchy to higher level hierarchy rules also. Rules at a higher level of hierarchy may be too generic. So how do support and confidence vary as we traverse the concept hierarchy? Anyway, if you go to the specific, then your support will become less. If you go to the more generic, then your support will be more. So if X is the parent item for both X1 and X2, then always support of X is greater than or equal to support of the lower item, sigma X1 plus sigma X2. So if you take union, sigma of X1 union Y1, that is always greater than or equal to minimum support of X1 or Y1. And X1 is parent of X1, Y is parent of Y1, then sigma X union Y1 is greater than. All these things, it's you need to verify with paper and pen, let's see how these are changing. But in general formula, whenever you have union X1 union Y1, then the support of X1 union Y1 is greater than or equal to minimum support of both X1 and Y1. Similarly, other rules are given here. And confidence of X1 implies Y1 is greater than or equal to minimum confidence. Similarly, confidence of X1 implies Y greater than or equal to min confidence. So what will we achieve by multi-level association rules? The first approach to get the rules is extend current association rule formulation by augmenting each transaction with higher level items. So first you get the lower level items, then aggregate them to the higher level things. Original transaction, skim milk, wheat bread. Then augmented transaction, skim milk, wheat bread, milk, bread, and food. So you skim milk is becoming into milk in a hierarchy. Then wheat bread is becoming bread, and milk and bread can be considered as one item as a food. Items that reside at higher levels have much higher support counts because food is the union of milk and bread. Similarly, bread is the union of wheat bread and white bread. White bread is not given here. Milk, again, skim milk with the different percentages. If support threshold is low, too many frequent patterns involving items from the higher levels increase the dimensionality of the data. So if you take a lower level thing, then your dimensionality will become more. Generate frequent patterns at higher level first, then again divide them into down. Then generate frequent items at the next highest level and so on. Input output requirements will increase dramatically because we need to perform more passes over the data. May miss some potentially interesting cross-level association patterns with this. So this is regarding how to achieve multi-level association rules. Before that, we have seen how can we make continuous attributes and categorical attributes and how we transform them to form association rules. So another application of this association analysis is to find the sequential patterns. So which items or which objects will follow one another? That is the sequence. So sequence of different transactions by a customer at an online store. If he does this transaction, he may not do with the same transaction another one, but let's say in the coming 1 month or 1 week, he may do the second transaction. Something like, let's say if they purchase a computer, they may not purchase immediately the mouse or whatever that it's a laptop. Then they may realize later that it's if they have mouse is good. Then purchasing laptop leads to mouse purchase. That is the sequence of the transaction. We are not looking at whether they purchase together or not. Here they purchase, if they purchase one, what is the probability that they purchase other also in coming transactions? So sequence of different transactions by a customer at an online store, digital camera, iPad. Then later they purchase memory card. Later they purchase headphone and iPad cover. Something like that, let's see. These are not transactions done simultaneously, transactions sequentially done by the same users. Sequence of initiating events causing the nuclear accident at 3 Mile Island. So this is another scientific application. If some events happens, then that causes to the another event. In the case of the nuclear, they are saying that it's a nuclear accident may happen if these incidents will happen. That is what if they can find the data, then that becomes an association rule. So clogged resin, outlet value closure, loss of feed water, condensed polished outlet valves shut, like that. It's a booster pump strips, main water pump trips. All these things leads to nuclear accident. If they can establish an association rule with these are the sequential things. These are not just simply it's a frequent item, frequent sequence of items. So you need to consider items which are coming in a sequence here. Sequence of books checked out at library. Then how people first what book they take, then that may refer to another book. Then they go and take that book. Then that will give another reference like that. This also can be used. Here also we can use association rules to find out what the sequence of books people read. Some more examples in telecommunications: alarm logs, inverter problem, then excessive line current, rectifier alarm, then fire alarm. So when fire alarm will come based on these things. In point of sale transaction sequences, computer bookstore, introduction to Visual C, C++, primer, what books leads to others, athletic apparel stores. So first they may purchase shoes, then racket, ball. Then later they come and purchase sports jacket. Sequence database, how people will store. Then same customer ID will be there.
the timestamp should be there so that we can find the customer purchased those items in a sequence. So customer sequences purchase history of a given customer, a set of items bought by a customer at a time t, then event time, books, diary, products, CDs, etc. So how they store this database is given here. So element transactions, so first transaction, second transaction, like that. So event of items. So the sequence is important here. 2, 3, 4, like that here. So some more, let's say, same sequence A, sequence B, sequence A purchased, then 2, 3, 5, then later on 6, 1, then again 1, like that. Different types of data sets are present here. So customer A on date 10, items bought 2, 3, 5. On date 20 means later on in the same sequence, he brought 1, 6. Then he also bought on 23rd 1. Similarly, 4, 5, 6, 2, 1, 2, 7, 8 for B and 1, 6, C for 1, 7, 8. So events are considered here 2, 3, 5, 1, 6, 1 as 1 if you consider as a sequence. So items brought 2 here, let's say whenever he is purchasing 2, in later he is also purchasing 1 more frequently. That is what we can see here. So whenever he is purchasing 4, 5, 6 is also purchasing. So we need to see not one customer, we need to put all the customers and see that, let's see what is more prone sequence to follow. So what is the more prone sequence in this data set here? If you consider 3 customers separately. So you need to go through the textbook with more examples. For this, let's see how one set of items are enforcing in a sequence to purchase other items. That is what we need to find out. We have very limited data with only 3 people. That's why we are unable to see here more that sequence. So what is the definition of sequence? How you consider that is in sequence or not? A sequence is an ordered list of elements, E1, E2, E3. Then each element contains a collection of events. Then I1, I2, Ik means here 2, 3, 5 is 1, EI. Then what is E2? Then length of a sequence modus is given by the number of elements in the sequence. Then a key sequence is a sequence that contains k items. Then a sequence A1, A2, AN is contained in another sequence B1, B2, Bm greater than m greater than or equal to n if there exist integers I1, I2, In such that A1 is in Bi1, A2 is in Bi2, An Bin. Then here you go through the example better. The mathematical definition is given here. So A1 is contained in B2, A2 is contained in B3, part of B3 contained means A3 is part of B5. Then we say A1, A2, A3 is in this sequence B1, B2, B3, B5. So T is a subsequence of S. If A1 is in B2, A2 is in B3, A3 is in B5. So you may miss some of the things, but whatever exists, their superset should be there in the previous sequence. So data sequence, subsequence 2, 4, 3, 5, 6, 8. Because 2 is part of 2, 4, 3, 5, 6 is not there. Anyway, 8 is part of 8. That's why it is a sequence. Now we need to fill up this. So what is the second one? Is it subsequent or not? 1, 2 is subsequent of 1, 2, and 3, 4. Is it subsequence or not? The second row. Is it yes or no? What is the condition? One should be part of the one of the elements. Is one is part of the one of the elements 1 and 2 here?
Yes.
So this first condition is satisfied. Then 2 is part of one of these things,
Yes, sir.
but 2 is part of the same thing, 1, 2, right? It should be in another thing. So that's why it is no. Then 2 and 4. 2 is part of this 2 and 4, and 4 is part of 2 and 4. So this is yes. What about this one? Fourth one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why it is no? You said yes, right? Because 4 and 5 belongs to same. 4 should be in some element and 5 also should be in some other element, right? So once 2 has taken 2, 4, this 4 is taken 4 and 5. There is no element left to see whether 5 is part of that or not. Am I right? That's why it is no. What is the definition here? It's for each element, you should be in the same sequence, you should be able to find elements in the super sequence or main sequence, right? Then A1, A2, A3 is subsequence, provided A1 is part of the B2, means some element you need to find out where it is subset. Then A2 also in the same sequence, in the above sequence, you need to find out whether there is another element B3 which contains this A2. So when you are taking this 2, 4, 5, 2, 4 contains 2, 4, 5 contains 4, and there is no other element to go through further, right, in this sequence to see whether 5 is part of another element in that sequence or not. That's why it is no. And what about this fifth one?
No, sir. 2 and 5 are in same subset.
No, but there are 2 elements in the
So it says.
So 1, 5 will come from 2, 5, other 5 will come from 4, 5. That's why it is yes. You did not have for fourth one that, because 5 already 4 is taken 4, 5. So there is no other element for 5. What about this 2, 4, 5? Two comes from 2, 4. 4 comes from 4, 5. There is no element to check whether 5 comes from another sequential element or not, right? So it is no again. So sequential pattern mining example here, object, timestamp, events. Okay, then what they purchased at that event. So at time 1, they purchased 1, 2, 3. At time 2, they purchased 2, 3. Then time 3, they purchased 5. Similarly, B, C, D is given. Then some rule we are trying to find out, minimum support equal to 50%. Examples of frequent subsequences. So do you have 1, 2 or not here, right? So your sets will become 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 5. So 1, 2, another set is 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Another set is 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 5, like that. Then you need to find out this 1, 2, how much of support it has. So 1, 2, if you take this, see this 1, 2, you need to see this is one sequence, right? So like earlier when we compute 1, 2 is coming from 1, 2, 4, 2 is coming from 2, 3. So this A supports this, right? Sequence of A. The first one we are trying to find out what is support of this 1, 2. Then again, will B support that? 1, 2. Again, 1 is coming from 1, 2, 2 is coming from 2, 3, 4. This also supports. Then again, whether C supports it or not. How many elements are there in the C sequence?
C will support, sir.
C has three elements, right? 1, 2, 2,
Yes,
3,
sir.
2, 4, 5. Now
So
we are
1 will come from 1 and 2, and 2 will come from 2, 3, 4, or 2, 4, 5.
yeah. So anyway, we'll go with sequence. So second element comes from the second one. So it also supports, right? This also
Yes, sir.
supports. Whether D supports 1, 2, there is no 1 at all in D, right? So D doesn't support that. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir. D won't support it.
Right. Then what about E?
It supports, sir.
Supports, sir.
Okay. So how many are supporting this?
Four objects.
4,
So 4 out of 5.
5.
5.
This also should be 80%. Here it is some mistake with 60%. This also will be 80% support. What is the right support of this is out of 5 you got 4 are supporting. So you get 80% even the first one. Similarly, find out 2, 3. 2, 3 will be supported by the first one because first 2 will come for first and 3 will come from the second one. Second one also support, right? 2, 3, because you can find in the first.
Third also support.
Third also support. Fourth
Also support.
Fourth also supports.
But the D will not support. Why?
The order
is reversed.
Not in the same sequence, so it won't.
Same sequence.
So what is the percentage again here? 80%.
80%.
80%.
And find out 2, 4. The first one doesn't support, right?
First one won't support.
Then second one support, third one support, fourth one support.
Fourth support and fifth one also supports. Sir,
Fifth one
Sir,
will
fifth
not.
one
No,
also
fifth one
not
won't
support, no,
support.
sir.
Fifth one not
Won't
support.
support.
That is the 60% again. Okay. So these values are, it seems, let's say they are, when they are writing, mistakenly they have written instead of 80s, 60s and 60s, 80. So 2, 4 is having only 60%. What about 3, 5? First one is supported, right? Second and third will support 3 and 5. See, this one is 3, no? This is 5. So this supports 3 and 5. Then
Second won't support.
second won't support. Third will support. Second and third are 3 5s, right?
Yes, sir.
Then this also, D also will support.
Fourth also support. Fifth
Fourth
also support.
Fourth supports and fifth also supports 3 and 5. So this is right, 80% is. So similarly, you find out the supports of remaining things. So 2 implies 1. Whether it has enough support or not, that is what we need to find out. That is nothing but sigma of 2, 1 by sigma of 2. We need to get this. So 2, 1 is supported by A because 2 comes from first and 1 is coming from second. Then B doesn't support 2, 1. No, B also supports 2, 1 because second of B and third of B is this, and C doesn't support. So 2 out of 3 are supporting here. So that is the sigma of 2, 1. And sigma of 2, in how many transactions you find 2, then only last one is not there. Remaining things you can find 2. So 2 out of 2. So both times it supports. So it is 100% confident 2. So that is what you can find out. Confidence of 2 implies 1. So how do you extract sequential patterns? Given any events, I1, I2, I3, IN, candidate 1 subsequences. I1, all these subsequences you need to find out. Candidate 2 subsequences. So you form two elements and see that whether they are supported by sequences or not. Candidate 3 subsequences. Three items we will take together. So given 2 events, A, B, candidate 1 subsequence, A and B only are there. Candidate 2 subsequences, AA, AB, BA, BB, AB, because repetitions are allowed. They may purchase the same thing again in a sequence. Candidate 3 subsequences. So it says that you can find so many sequential patterns. So it becomes more and more complex actually. Make the first pass over the sequence database D to yield all the 1 element frequent sequence. The same way how we did a priori algorithm. First we will get the 1 sequence items, 2 sequence items, 3 sequence items, like that. Repeat until no new frequent sequences are found. Candidate generation, merge pairs of frequent subsequences found in the k-1th pass to generate candidate sequences that contains k item. So if it is not 1 sequence, then anyway, it won't become a 2 sequence, 3 sequence, like that, it's saying. So that is how we do the same thing as we did earlier in a priori algorithm, getting the higher size frequent item sets. The same algorithm is given here, so you can go through that. Same a priori principle is explained here. So the same logic is explained here, what we discussed during the a priori algorithm. So the last part is the subgraph mining. So we have seen sequential patterns. We also have seen multi-level association rules. Now we try to understand how do we apply these association algorithms for graphs. So frequent subgraph mining. You know what is subgraph? Hello? You did graphs, right? And algorithm data structures too. If it has the nodes and edges part of the main graph, then the other graph is called subgraph. Okay. Am I audible or not? Hello?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay. So I'm asking that, do you have idea on subgraphs or not? Graphs or not?
It is a part of graph, sir. Subgraph is a part.
Yeah. So nodes should be sub nodes, and edges also should be the sub edges, right? Then it becomes a subgraph. So here people want to find out, frequent subgraphs. So what structures you can find? If you see the right side, whoever did that organic chemistry, they can find something, benzene, all those things, right? That structure of the chemical composition. So in different chemical compositions, which composition is the same? So there people will use this type of things. So even in web links, so what links are more common? Homepage, research, artificial intelligence, data mining, databases, then how people will go through the links. So these are graph definitions. I don't want to go through all those things, but you can see simply labeled graph and subgraph. So if you take then CA, BA, that has become a subgraph here, simply it's in. This is part of this, B is part of A. So representing transaction as graphs. Now earlier, we were trying to understand association rules based on transactions. Now we need to represent to apply association rules, these graphs as transactions. Are transactions as graphs. So each transaction is a click of items. So here transaction ID is ABCD, then ABE. All these are subgraphs. ABCD is one subgraph, then ABE is another subgraph, then BC, ABDE, BCDE. So representing graphs as transactions, then graph G1, whether ABP is there or not, as a subgraph for this, ABP is there, then ABQ, ABR, like that. So node may contain duplicate labels. Support and confidence, how to define them. Additional constraints imposed by pattern structure. Support and confidence are not the only constraints. Assumption, frequent subgraphs must be connected. A priori-like approach. Use frequent K subgraphs to generate frequent K plus 1 subgraph. Same a priori type of algorithm we'll see. First we'll get subgraphs of nodes 1, subgraphs containing nodes 2, like that. Number of graphs that contain a particular subgraph is very high or low. Then a priori principle still holds. So level-wise a priori-like approach, vertex growing, K is the number of vertices. And edges, edge growing, K is the number of edges. So you can increase either vertices or edges. So here one graph matrix representation. This is adjacency graph. There are two ways of representation of graphs, right? One is the matrix representation, other one is the adjacency list representation. So adjacency vertex matrix representation here. So 0, 0 means there is no edge between first vertex and the first vertex. Then P is the edge between A and here another vertex. So 4 vertices are there. This is 4 by 4 matrices. So here it is 5 vertices are there, 5 by 5. Then you need to index them 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, these vertices. The only thing is here, the vertex names are same because they may purchase the same item or they may click the same link, like that. That's why there may be vertexes with the same. So all these are graph representations in terms of the matrix. Then edge growing. Then the first one, you have this much only. So if you put these two, then G3 is joined by G1 and G2. Then one more edge has come here, see. So the item sets, like earlier, see, we were taking one less than item set and one less than item set. We are trying to merge them to get the association rule. Here also we are trying to see frequent subgraphs with edge growing. So if these two are frequent subgraphs, then will it be also a frequent subgraph or not? That is just A and F, that is Q edges added to this. So find frequent one subgraphs. People use the same a priori-like algorithm. Repeat. You can go through this with step-by-step procedure explained in the textbook. Then again, it's a, you can apply your pruning techniques, all those things. The graph isomorphism is nothing but, it's a, can you redraw a graph with another, if you can redraw one graph to like other, then they are called isomorphic graphs.
Nodes may be different, edges names may be different, but you will get the same structure. So basically, these association rules are also useful to find out subgraphs in a given, frequent subgraphs in a given say graphical structures. So there are many applications, as I told you, it's a chemical compositions or genes, proteins, it's a how they are connected. And in terms of the search algorithms, then which are more prone to search later. So if they represent the links with the graphs, we'll see that it's a Google search engine algorithm in next course. There also you will find out that it's a how do we represent all the links as a graph. Then we will see that it's a which one is the more important link. People are going to search for that. Like that, things will come. So the same association rules can be applied to find out frequent subgraphs. So this, once we convert a domain into graphical structures, then we can find out frequent subgraphs. From the frequent subgraphs, we can find out association rules, which leads to those things. So I'll stop it here. These are some of the advanced techniques which association rules can be applied.